Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. I'm going to start off right away with Grantham. Talcott. I just feel my heart bleeds for him. And I wanted to ask you, you do such a great job of kind of going with the flow and sort of accepting what's happening, but not accepting what's happening and questioning things, but you're just perfectly on the middle line of not being too much and not being not enough. And as an actor, I wanted to know how you handled that fine line of really keeping him together, but also kind of dealing with what's being thrown at him.
I think the blessing of getting to play a character like Tal is it's almost the closest you could get to doing what people would do in real life if they were going through these circumstances. Because mainly when we're watching a drama, something incendiary has to happen, or someone has to make a choice that in real life, no, you're not going to run that red light. I'm going to chase you in my car, or some sort of thing that creates a drama. But as the character that the drama is happening to, you kind of have no choice but to continue through and persevere. And I think I enjoyed playing Tal because it's the slight one world away of if all this was happening to me and I still had to be a dad and I still had to be a law professor and I still had to be a son and I was concerned about all these things, what rational way could I go about it and still maintain some level of sanity? And I think as the story goes on and things start to erode his comfortability with going with the flow, I think that would happen to anyone. And so I kind of tried to champion the truth of someone going through these experiences.
Yeah, and his character, and Talcott has been described as a character that grapples with his own identity and the legacy of his father throughout this suspenseful thriller. So is that an accurate depiction of him? That he's struggling with his own identity and the legacy of his father now that he's finding all these things out?
Yeah, I think because he was probably someone who identified as a great husband, a great son to a worthy father who never did anything bad and was almost on the Supreme Court, and a lovely wife who never did anything bad, and everything's perfect, and he's a great professor at a prestigious university. And as you start to take away all these titles and things about other people that he thought were true, I think he starts to realize that oh, well, if that's what I thought of myself as, then I'm learning more about myself. I'm not these things that other people are. So I think Tal is on a journey of discovery of self. And I think there's some interesting things that happen in the later episodes where he starts to find out more about who he wants to be.
And Polina, for you, Timmer, what is she doing? There's secret phone calls, there's things going on. So talk to me about what she's doing, where she's heading this series, and then how it affects her marriage, because there's major issues between her and Talcott.
Yes, I think Kimmer is one of those people who puts her eyes on the prize and goes for it. And whatever choices or sacrifices that she feels she needs to make, she makes them without hesitation, but then has to deal with the consequences after the fact. Well, and then also on top of that, I believe Kimmer's caught between a rock and a hard place in the sense that she has this amazing opportunity. And at any other point in time, this would be the entire family's rallying behind her and saying yes, let's get you this federal judiciary, right? But then her husband's father dies. And not only is he just her husband's dad, he is a pillar in their entire family and their community in how the world views their family. So this is a devastating loss. And so having to balance having your dream on the path to coming true with having to support the family, your husband through this very hard time. Anybody who's been in any kind of relationship where things are going great for you and not so great for your partner, it's a really tough spot to be in, but it also makes for good drama.
How would you describe your characters in dealing with the fact that there's a huge death that takes place and it kind of ripples into not only your marriage, but also the characters themselves?
I mean, Mariah's handling it great. She's certainly no stranger to family tragedy. And I think this one hits in a different way because I think she's really a daddy's girl and is really struggling with confronting that grief and that the reality that he's gone. And I think that's why she's sort of looking for something, some attachment to say, like, okay, maybe he's not really gone. I think, she also knows that, with the passing of her father, she's kind of, it's now just, we're the next generation in line, and I thankfully I haven't had that experience, but I can only imagine like where that leaves you, kind of knowing that it's maybe you and your siblings out in the world.
I was just gonna just say for Howard Denton, I played Mariah's husband, and I just think that he's trying to be supportive of her and her grief, but also trying to keep their sense of their family and the reality in one place while she goes down this conspiracy theory rabbit hole, and it's a really tricky on their dynamic, and it's a strain on their relationship. For sure. So that's interesting. It was really fun to play that out.
Yeah. And how is Howard so calm dealing with it? Because I feel like, with all these characters, so much is coming at them and some are supportive, some aren't, some are struggling with marriages. But Howard seems to be very calm and supportive with what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Howard's like, he lives a very large life and a very high stake life. And he married into a high profile family. And I think he's one of those guys that the pressure doesn't affect him as much. But he also, I think his love for Mariah is so strong. And yeah, I think he's just there to support her through this. And it was a tricky dynamic of trying to not just be a pushover, but at the same time be supportive. And when do you put your foot down? And would it even matter if he does put his foot down? I don't know. I think I also wanted to bring a different kind of energy to the world, because I feel like it can be very serious. And I thought when Howard comes in, I wanted to change the temperature a little bit, make it a little bit more fun. Especially with Mariah, her characters can be very serious and headstrong. So it's nice to elicit some other emotions from her. Yeah.
I think Howard's probably the only one that's going to say that she does lighten up for. Yes.
I wanted to ask, this is obviously a much more complex whodunit show. It's not just like, who killed it? There's so much more complexities. There's racism, classism, social, so many topics that come into the show. So was it hard for both of you, or how did you guys prepare to try to show it very real? Because that's how it comes off on the show. And I know it's an adaptation from a book. The book was fantastic, but you guys really did such an authentic way of showing all of these issues that we're dealing with today on the show.
Well, thank you. I don't know how much credit I can take for that. I mean, I think there's a lot owed to to the writers and Sherman, Payne, our showrunner, for the adaptation and the worlds that they created for us to play in. And it certainly is a really fun playground because there was so much to pull from. Yeah.
I was just going to ask my last question, which was, what are you guys most excited about for fans to see? Because it's such a enthralling show. I mean, from the first episode to the last episode. So
I just think it's a really rare show where you can have a fun political thriller, but also create this relatable family dynamic, and there's comedy there and there's tragedy, and the tone is very hard to pull off. And I feel like Sherman and the cast and the directors are fantastic. So I just think the audience is gonna strap in and enjoy this ride for sure.
Yeah, I'm just excited for people to kind of see this family, because I do think that they're one that we haven't seen on screen before.
I want to start off with you, Torrey. Jack. Is he misunderstood? Talk to me. I feel like a little bit of love for him, but then I'm also scared. So talk to me about him.
Well, that's great. That's what we're shooting for. Yeah, he is misunderstood, I like to think. And I do think he does have a code of honor, and he does have the virtue of loyalty. He does act only when he is, I think, threatened. He does act in ways that's not okay. He is known for having people put away, having countries collapse. He's someone who has had his finger in a lot of pies and done a lot of evil. But I do think he has a core of humanity in him that is why he is his best friends with the judge for so long.
And that's what I was thinking too, because I saw the whole show because I became obsessed, and I watched the first episode and just watched all of it. So you guys did such a great job. But when we first meet you, I was like, well, why would he be friends with him if he was such a bad guy? So that's why I have a special place in my heart for you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Why would he? And that's the question that I think is most interesting to see answered as the series goes on.
And then Jasmine, for you, Maxine, oh, I just love her. She shows up randomly. It's almost like watching like a random watcher that's appearing out of nowhere. And we don't know the intentions or what's going on. But I keep going, give the girl a chance. Like, why are you all running from her? Like, find out what she wants to tell you. So for you, the same kind of question, like, I feel love for you. And I'm like, maybe she's trying to protect everybody. Like, what's happening? So what was it like for you playing that character and trying to balance the roles? Because we don't know much when we first meet her.
I think you were inside of my brain. You said everything that I already feel about Maxine.
And she's seen the whole show.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Give her a chance. Yeah, I had so much fun playing Maxine. She is everything that you just described. I mean, I think she has really good intentions, and that could just be me being biased as an actor who's playing Maxine. But I think she's super fun, and I think I can't wait for people to come and watch our show and see how she progresses. Yeah, I will say, even though we're sitting together, we're not on the same team. So I may go about things not in the same way, but in a similar way. But we both just want good for the family, I think.
We did.
Yeah.
I was going to actually ask that, you know, the two of you, I feel like are kind of the outsiders in a way, right? Because you're not in the family, but we keep seeing you guys kind of pop up at, you know, random times. Do you guys see similarities or major differences between the two of your characters?
Oh, I think we're similar in the ways that Maxine can tolerate and dissimilar in the ways that she would be happy with. I think we both want good for the family.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both operate out of a sense of maybe duty or getting what you want. I think we have very different ways of going about it.
And I would say we're both on a mission.
Yeah.
And we both have different lines that we've crossed.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what sets us apart mostly. I think Jack is that he crosses lines all the time. And that's just how he's gotten by all through his life. And I just think maybe I'm just guessing that you're have a little more integrity about that than I am.
No, we'll see.
Yeah, you do.
I also want to ask, what was it like kind of filming with this crazy cast with a book that basically changed the literary world for African Americans, and now this television show is kind of changing the landscape for, I feel like, for African Americans. So what was that like for you guys to be a part of? And what are you most excited about for fans to see? Because this is such a crazy, just life-altering show. Like I said, I started it and I was like, everything stopped. I got to finish it. So
I will say that being a part of this show is an incredible experience. I know that Torrey and I were just talking about how great it was working with the set of actors. Like, you mainly got to work with Forrest Whitaker, and I was with Grantham. I think everyone on the show is an incredible actor. I think there's someone to watch. I think everyone that watches the show will find someone that they love following, no matter what, no matter if you're on Jack's side or anyone else's. And I think that just being a part of the book story, as you say, is incredible. Like, you saying that out loud just reminded me, oh yeah, that's why I wanted to do this in the first place.
And for me, you know, I worked with Grantham and Forrest, but not as much with Grantham. But I had just seen the characters come to life because I read the novel. We both did.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a vision of who the characters were. And every time I saw who was playing the role, I went, oh, that's great. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that hook up perfectly with the book. And yet the creators take that book and move it forward into the present day. Book was written 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So many things that are really cool about the current iteration that we have of 10 episodes is that we get to create a new kind of world. And there's a great look back. As you know, it goes back in time. I've spent half the time in the past and half the time in the present. You get to really relive that last 20 years. And so it's kind of an original creation. It's really a success in that regard. I think the book really is an inspiration for a great story.
Yeah, Sherman did a great job. Did a wonderful job.
I want to start off first with, you know, Carter's book had been deemed one of the largest literary books in the African American culture and in history, that he just changed the game. So why the heck did you guys decide to take this on? I mean, you did it brilliantly, but what made you guys brave enough, I think, to try to adapt it into a television show?
That's a really great question. I think we were following his lead. You know, he really, I think, blew the doors off the place in terms of the literary world, but obviously the film and television world reaches a different segment of people. And I think that his story in terms of the beauty of the mystery and the depiction of Black people was something that really needed to come to the screen. So, you know, I'm not shy. And I was up for the challenge and trying to take his beautiful work and put it in front of more eyeballs.
I want to give kudos to you guys because I saw how many times you guys show the chess And I love that the piece that, like, I don't think this is a huge spoiler, but in the first episode, one of the pieces that goes missing is black, but has white in it. So can you talk to me about some of the symbolism that is shown throughout the show that are little pieces that get dropped as the episodes go on?
Okay, I could jump in and say that, if you read the book, you know that a lot of the internal monologue that Tal has is about the darker nation versus the lighter nation, white people versus black people, and how we move through this country and this world. So wherever we could, script-wise, and also Damian took that to screen and also our prop master, Jeremy, did a great job. We tried to find that dichotomy, that binary, black versus white. So you're really, really perceptive to notice it in the chess piece. We put it a few other places, which the audience will find out. But we also talked to our production designer and our location people about that motif, about black versus white, about the grid of the chessboard. We tried to incorporate it as much as possible because it's a huge part of the book.
And Damian, for you, I saw obviously you directed the first episode, you directed another episode, executive producer. In that first episode, it really sets the tone for the season. So for you, how much of the book and the symbolism and racism and class and, just the issues that this family deals with that you wanted to put in that episode? How much is too much? How much is not enough? How do you balance all of that?
I don't think I purposely tried to put anything in, I think, other than what was on the page, because, we had these scripts for a while, and it was kind of one of the pluses of that, because sometimes, you get like a couple episodes or you kind of get this drip feed. But we'd had these things for such a long time, and you knew what would happen, over the course of 10 hours of something that we're making. So there wasn't a need to necessarily scream in episode one. I sort of made mention to this earlier that I really wanted this to be a very real and very lived in type of series. I wanted people and audience members, possibly the ones who look like us, to feel like they saw themselves in these people. So I didn't want these people to be so overtly one way or the other on screen that they would decide from the pilot, oh, this is not me, or that's not me. Or something we would joke about a lot when we were shooting this with our DP, Sean. Sean would come to work some days and be like, no one's going to like these people. Everyone's going to hate the Garlands. Black people are not watching this show whatsoever. They're not likable. They're not likable. Why did you guys do this? And you need to have that as part of the creative discussion, I think, even as you're going through the scene work, right? Because Sean is an audience member, right? He is someone that even if he says it in a jovial way, we always wanted to make sure that our characters were not alienating people, and especially alienating people that looked like themselves, because this show was supposed to help us redefine what it is to be Black and on screen, and not necessarily having to be a drug lord or a basketball player, both of which I've shot, right? Those are usually, Black people usually come and sing and dance and do a trick, and we make a thing about them. This was just about, what if we could be in this world with just Black people that were well-to-do? My joke in pitching this show was always, I asked for a show of hands for everyone who had spent the weekend at their wealthy Black friend's house. And I never got a hand raised, right? So something needed to be done. And I think sometimes just even subtlety allows us to kind of all, as a community, feel like this is a piece for us.
I wanted to ask both of you, what was it like working with this cast? Obviously, Forrest Whitaker, come on. He was so good. But this entire cast is so great at that balance that the two of you kind of devised, which is like not too much, not too little, and you just got to go for the ride. So what was it like working with this cast, and what are you guys excited about?
Before Sherman takes this is and I made mention to this before, but it was watching them off camera. Off camera, when Forrest would walk into a room, the judge was there. When Aura would walk into a room, Mom was there. When Henry Simmons, who played Addison, was around, they would clown him. Even the parents would clown him. And when Grantham Coleman and Tiffany Mack were in a room together, they had an unbelievable off-camera chemistry. And it was just saying, okay, great, let's take all of that now and take it in there. And that's just, we have Paulina, Lule. We have so many people on this cast that I also want to just hats off to Chicago casting, because I didn't know what to expect. I thought, we could only find actors of certain calibers in certain cities. Chicago completely blessed our show. And that's what I have to say for the actors. Sure.
I mean, I'm just going to reiterate what Damian said. I think obviously Forrest Whitaker is a known quantity. He is going to exceed even your most lofty expectations of him, which I know is very high for everybody who knows his work. The rest of the cast is also amazing. And I think you're going to discover, if you're not familiar with some of these talented performers, you're going to discover, true acting greats on their way sort of ascending this industry. And I would just reiterate, Chicago is an amazing acting town. They have a deep theater tradition, and we were consistently shocked by, people just coming in for a day or two and their ability to go toe-to-toe with Forrest Whitaker or go toe-to-toe with Grantham Coleman. It was really, really impressive, man. I think the cast is one of the bright, shining aspects of this project.
Thank you for listening to Silence on Set podcast. My name is Monica Gleberman. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more interviews to come.